Good day, guys. Welcome to Endurance Room. I hope you're doing well. I'm out in the woods. It is a cold one today. It was -8, -10 this morning, about -20 Celsius, so cold. It's warmed up a little bit now that the sun is out, but welcome to March in the Adirondacks. So I'm at my campsite from the other day, and I've got my browse bed here, and I kind of want to do some stuff with it. The fire pit's still there. I want to build a proper super shelter. After I did that camp, I learned some more about setting up the shelter, how they're designed, how they're supposed to function. So I want to do it properly. So I've got my plastic drop cloth that I use for my door, and I've got my space blanket, and I've also got a large 12 by 14 poly tarp that I'm going to use to cover it over this time. And I want to build a super shelter that's big enough for me and Catherine and hopefully the dogs as well, so we can all come back here and chill. So first things first, I need a framework. I'm going to build the shelter from the ground up, and I'm going to build it around the size of our bed. All right, guys, I've got the base frame all laid out. Now I just got to secure it together. It's about 8 or 9 feet across by maybe 6 feet wide. Then we'll build the rest of the structure over top of it. This is going to let us set up a raised bed in front of our fire pit, and because heat rises and we're going to use a reflective shield over top of it, it's going to be nice and warm at the top. I'm so excited. I got to experience this a little bit with the Plush Palaka version, but I'm really eager to do this right. So the next step is to lash together our frame, and we're going to use some paracord and the good old Canadian jam knot. All right, we got the base of our structure all lashed together. So our next step is to get some flexible poles to make a half igloo, a half wigwam type shape to put on our tarps. All right, guys, I've got most of the poles that are gonna make the top part of the frame already in place. They're just kind of wrapped around each other. I believe these are just poplar saplings. I went along and shaved off all of the branches and smoothed them out so they're not going to tear the tarp, and made arches that are coming diagonally across from the corners up to the front. So it ends up making like a half igloo, half wigwam type shape. And even though these saplings this is pretty thin, the more that you're adding in and the more you're tying it together, the stronger the whole structure becomes. So this will be solid when it's all tied together. As you see from the base, it kind of moves back into the shelter. The more vertical you can keep the plastic sheet at the front of the shelter, the better your chances are for sparks not to land on it and burn a hole in it. So I'm going to put a piece on that arch, and that'll help strengthen it up a little bit more and give my plastic sheet a nice clean face to reside on. That's better. That's pretty close to a vertical face. All right, I've got the frame all done. The arch over the front is nice and vertical. I've added in a few more cross pieces to fill in the back. All right, so let's cover it up. So our first layer is going to be a Mylar space blanket, and that is going to provide heat reflection and bounce radiant heat from our fire down to the floor and underneath the bed. There are three components to Morski super shelters: the Mylar, which reflects the heat, the clear plastic that provides our door, and then a breathable material. I've got a couple tarps with me, but I also want to have something that air is going to permeate, and you want that down towards the base of your shelter. So I'm going to add that in next, and for that I've just got an old bed sheet. It's nylon, but it's breathable. So I'm going to throw that in, and that'll provide a clean air exchange, so there's fresh air coming into the shelter. And there's our gray leopard print bed sheet in place. Not a bad little snow camo. So we've got two more layers left: the clear plastic and the tarps to finish out our roof. But before I put those on, I want to add in 3 cross pieces for our bed. One for under the head, one for under the hips, and then one for under the knees. That'll help support our saplings that we're going to lay in to frame up the bed. I've got 2 laying inside of our large logs, and that's going to form the rails of the bed. All right, crossbars are all laid in. There's the frame for our bed. The next step is just to lay saplings along and vertically, and then top it off. Not too bad. It's got a good bit of spring to it. I've got my browse bed from the other day. I'm going to be able to move that up on top when I finish filling it in, but I think I'm going to leave the bed for now. I'm going to finish covering it over, and then Catherine's going to come out and we're going to have some dinner. Pretty good for today. Let's go see what my woman's up to. Well, hey guys, look who it is. What you think?
I think we're in a turtle shell.
Turtle shell, turtle power.
It's gonna blow away.
I didn't tie our tarp down. Right on, getting close. Our bed is in place. One of the most important features of this shelter, you want to have a comfortable night's sleep, and essential to that is having a good bed, a nice place to sleep on. So now all we gotta do is cover it up. It got too cold to film, too cold to put the tarp up. I had to take a break and build a fire. I've got a thermometer with me. We'll get a reading on the thermometer and then we're gonna bring it inside as the shelter warms up and see what that looks like. So we'll see how effective this is. But I've got the polypropylene clear plastic sheet on. This is just a cheap plastic drop cloth. You can get it at any dollar store. Right on, we just gotta throw on the 2 poly tarps and we have an extra large super shelter. First tarp is on, secured at the bottom. And the opposite corner wraps around and secured back in the middle of the shelter. The other corner is pulled up over top of our polypropylene clear plastic sheet and is lashed off at the bottom towards the frame. All right guys, I just got the second tarp on. I've got it lashed at the bottom here, but I've left the bed sheet exposed to give us some clean air coming into the shelter at the base. So my 2 tarps are overlapping the clear plastic sheet. We've got a nice door there. It's already starting to bubble out from the heat. Like I said, it cooled off. It was too cold to tie knots, so I had to build a fire. If you're outside and it's cold and you get to the point where you can no longer touch your pinky to your thumb, it is past time to get your fire going. Let's check out our shelter, but real quick before we do, the outside ambient temperature is a whopping 10 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 12 Celsius. It's a little chilly. We've got a small to medium-sized fire about 1.5 steps away from the door of the shelter. But you can already see how the plastic is kind of bubbling out. That means heat is forming on the inside, which is exactly the effect we're looking for. Let's get inside and see what's happening. Wow. All right, so we're inside. I can already tell there's a huge difference in the ambient temperature. Wow. Let's give this a couple minutes to let the thermometer warm up. So, I've taken a couple days to put this together, just working a couple hours at a time. I would say the basic foundation frame and the stuff overhead, that took about maybe 3 or 4 hours. And then building the bed, that took an hour or 2. So a pretty substantial size shelter, big enough for 2, maybe 3 people. Our components were pretty cheap. We've got a military space blanket, that was about 20 bucks, and you can tell from all the Gorilla Tape on there that I've definitely got my $20 out of it. The 2 camouflage tarps overhead, the one with the orange on it, I got that for like 12 bucks, and the other one was like 30 or 40 bucks. I've had them for years, so I used a bit of paracord, and the white rope that I predominantly used was just some mason line. That was $2 for a spool, so not a lot. And then the polypropylene drop sheet, that was, I don't know, 10 bucks. And like I said, this is a large variation of the shelter designed for, you know, a base camp. You can build a much smaller variation of this shelter and get it up pretty quick. Like, it is really warm. My beard, the ice in my beard is melting. Right on. The bed's nice and cozy. So it is definitely warmer up here at the top of the shelter, but it's not too bad. It is way, way warmer in here than it was outside. Wow. Quite honestly, I could sleep just like this. I'd have to get out and rebuild the fire as it burns down, but that's a pretty small fire, especially compared to what I had going on the other night. Right on. Let's check the temperature. So after about 10 minutes in here, we're about 40 degrees, 42 degrees. Pretty cool. So the temperature definitely changes the closer you are to the door. That's the closest you are to the door, and then up above, that's the warmest area of the shelter. The further away you move, the cooler it's going to get naturally. But pretty interesting. Not too bad for stuff that I already had laying around, and I got to recycle my camp. We're right on, guys. Extra large, super shelter. I hope you dig it. I sure do. You know, it's for as cold as it is outside, it's downright cozy in here. So, as always, if you have any questions, just leave them down below. I'll try and get to it as soon as I can. And if at all possible, you're on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, any social media, share it with your friends. Let them know that this is out there. So if you can, share it. Really appreciate it. I want to put as much work and growth into this channel this year as I possibly can. So hope you guys are good. I'll catch you soon. Cheers.